Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Theater, by its very nature, is the result of collaboration. Words, music, lights, sets, a physical space, all come together to create the magic that takes audiences elsewhere. I'm pleased to introduce two people who are engaged in creating that magic. Kelly Burdick is Director of Development for the Classical Theatre of Harlem, one of whose goals is to nurture a new, young, and culturally diverse audience for the classics. And with her is playwright Betty Shamia, whose latest work, Fit for a Queen, is being performed by the theater right now. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, when one hears the term classical theater, one thinks, or I think, of plays by long dead white men, Shakespeare, the Greek tragedies, perhaps plays by Russian playwrights like Chekhov, but plays that have lasting value long after the authors have passed on. So is that what the founders of the Classical Theatre of Harlem were thinking of when they founded it, to allow Black actors and audiences to be involved in those kinds of plays?
Sure. We were founded with two purposes, really. One is to make those classic works, Shakespeare, Chekhov, etc., accessible to audiences of color, to really provide a cultural context that would really enliven them, would make them less dead white men and more relevant to the current world we live in. And the second is to make sure that that canon, as it moves forward, doesn't continue to be full of white dead men, that to really diversify that canon and make sure that it involves playwrights like Betty Shamia, women, members of the African American diaspora, and other ethnic and religious minorities.
Okay. Now, I've been in the city long enough to be able to remember the Negro Ensemble company, you know, from back in the 60s, 70s, and I guess into the 80s as well, doing a lot of Black themed plays, Black actors, Black directors, Black playwrights, and also the New Federal Theater, Woody King, who's still doing good work, presenting plays for small audiences down on the Lower East Side. How are you similar to or different from those two companies?
The way that we see it is that the Classical Theatre of Harlem is building on the legacy that those theaters really founded. We stand on their shoulders. Without them, there wouldn't be a CTH.
And you guys came along in the 99, around then?
Yes, we were founded in 1999.
Okay. I understand that it grew out of the Harlem School of the Arts, is that correct?
Yes, we were initially a program of the Harlem School of the Arts. We were basically their theater wing, and over time it became clear that the need for a CTH was broader than people thought. And instead, we thought that it would be students and things like that, but then really well-established actors and people just out of graduate programs and all kinds of actors really clamored to join the ranks of CTH. And so it was decided to become its own freestanding not-for-profit.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, are you a repertory company with a core of actors who appear in plays, who appear repeatedly, or do you produce different plays with different sets of actors?
Sure. We are not a formal repertory company. We do audition and find new actors with every play, but we do have kind of a core of CTH artistic associates, people that we work with time and time again. For example, Leland Duran Thompson, who's the assistant director of the play Fit for a Queen, he is one of the co-authors of our holiday musical, The First Noel. And he's also been a teaching artist with us, and he has done production photography with us. So we look at artists as whole artists and tend to work with some over and over again.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how many productions a year? I know you have the Shakespeare in the Park thing that I am just learning about. That is there some connection with the Shakespeare in the Park that's in the Delacorte Theater, or?
We think that New York City deserves more than one Shakespeare in the Park. So we are bringing the kind of the Joe Papp model of Shakespeare in the Park uptown to Marcus Garvey Park, essentially for the month of July each year. And it's totally free. The difference is for us, you don't have to wait for tickets. You just come in.
I was going to ask that. You mean you don't have to camp out for 9 hours?
Sure don't. You just come in and you sit down and you take your seat and you bring your whole family. You stop at Harlem Shake and get a burger to go.
Okay.
And come see some world-class Shakespeare in Marcus Garvey Park.
Now, this past summer you did Macbeth.
We did.
Is it an uptown version of Macbeth? How do you?
So this year, our director, Carl Cofield, and our artistic director, Ty Jones, worked on an adaptation of Macbeth that presupposed a Jamaica as influenced by Haile Selassie's visit, and kind of put Duncan in the role of Haile Selassie and supposed what happened if that leader was taken away from a people.
Okay.
So the whole entire production was seen through that lens.
Okay. The first Noel is your Christmas production, and I gather that going forward, you're hoping that's going to be an annual thing?
Yes, the first Noel we commissioned in 2012. It made its world premiere last year at the Apollo Theater in the soundstage space. We sold out in an instant. And this year we're going to be on the Apollo Theater main stage for the first time. And the plan is, yes, to make it a tradition. So you come to New York, you go see the tree lighting, you go to Rockefeller Center, you go see the Nutcracker, and you come uptown and you see the first Noel at the Apollo.
Okay. And we have Fit for a Queen, your play, which is playing this month. How many performances are there going to be?
There's 8 shows a week for 4 weeks, right?
Okay, at the 3LD Art and Technology Center on Greenwich Street.
Yes.
Tell us about your play.
Well, I was sitting in a required course in my first year of college, and I found out about this woman named Hatshepsut, who ruled for 20 years in 15th century BC. And she dressed as a man. She said, "Don't call me queen, unlike Cleopatra or Elizabeth I." She said, "Call me king. That's who I am. I'm the most powerful person in the realm." And ancient Egypt was the superpower of the ancient world, and also the basis of the Judeo-Christian culture that we are immersed in at this point. So I am an Arab American, a woman, a feminist who's interested in history, always looking for fantastic people to write about, to make plays about. So it struck me as incredibly telling that I, who would be the most likely person to know this story, had to stumble in her story in a college class that I didn't want to be taking. That was a required kind of ancient cultures class, when I much rather would have been interested in taking a theater class or something that I was more attuned to at the time.
Okay.
So it made me think, had I learned this story in 5th grade, how would that have shaped me as a young person and young woman? How would it have shaped the boys in my class? How would it have shaped how I think of the first female presidential candidate at a major party? How would it have made me reconfigure who I am in relation to gender, in relation to women throughout the world? And had this woman succeeded in totally displacing the patriarchy for even 2 or 3 generations, and that there had been like 3 queens who were kings, that would have probably shaped our own culture today, because it was like I say, the superpower, the equivalent to what Rome was.
How did she get to be the pharaoh, the king of Egypt?
What happened was there were, the pharaohs believed that, or the Egyptians believed that pharaohs were gods on earth. And they believed that the blood was so important that a lesser wife's blood with the pharaoh was not as important as the true wife, that they actually, it's kind of, from what I understand, it's a little bit where we get the idea of Mary being impregnated by, a non-human source. So for 2 generations, Hatshepsut's grandmother and her mother, according to my recollection, there were only women left. And so they had this kind of schism in the society where, why are there only women from this very important bloodline for 3 generations? So the priestesses and the people started talking about, this might be a sign that we're supposed to change things. And there was another rival, basically royal house. So she took power. She ruled for 20 years. She was a fantastic pharaoh, and did all these wonderful public works. The other thing that I think is fascinating is, according to the Egyptologist at the Met, there is a figurine of Hatshepsut in almost every Egyptian museum throughout the world. And there are Egyptian museums in San Jose and random places you would never think that there would be, because there were so many images of this woman.
Now, you also had, had Cleopatra. Was she queen, or was she a pharaoh, or she was?
She was just queen, and Queen Elizabeth was just queen. They said, okay, we're just a temporary placeholder for a man, and we're going to wear the crown, and we're going to have the power, but we're not going to change the identity of our gender. We're going to be queen and be placeholder until the next king comes along.
Okay.
And the other thing that I think is fascinating is one of the reasons we might not know so much about Hatshepsut, aside from our own cultural blindness. And what I often say about people of color and women is we don't have to fabricate stories to make ourselves part of an integral part of our history. We just have to tell the full truth of our stories.
Okay.
And
so do you basically have, are there basically 3 productions a year, the Shakespeare in Marcus Garvey Park, and the First Noel, and another play by a contemporary author or whomever?
Yes.
That's how it goes?
That's the model.
Okay, okay. So who are your audiences?
Our audiences are really a subway car. We are 70% people of color, which is unheard of in theater. But we get everybody. It's the broadest spectrum of diversity that I've ever seen. It's socioeconomic, it is gender, it is age. We get everything from the First Noel, we had 4-year-olds to 94-year-olds in the audience. And people from all over, a lot of uptown audiences, but also people from other parts of the city. And I think in the park this year, the farthest person away I talked to was from New Zealand. Mm-hmm. So we truly, we're global.
And the intellectual theater crowd also makes it up to see their productions.
Okay. And you also have readings, play readings?
We do. We have a play reading series that involves finding those works like Fit for a Queen that will stand the test of time and become the new canon.
Okay. We're going to take a short break, then I'll be back with more with Kelly Burdick and Betty Shamia after this message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Kelly Burdick, Director of Development for the Classical Theatre of Harlem, and playwright Betty Shamia, whose new play, Fit for a Queen, is being performed at the theater. Where does the bulk of the financial support for your productions come from?
Oh, well, we are a not-for-profit, so we get funding from public sources like the City Council of New York and the Department of Cultural Affairs, the National Endowment for the Arts, etc. We get a fair amount of support from foundations like the Ford Foundation and the Howard Gilman Foundation and many, many others. And then a great deal of support comes from our audiences, from individuals that believe in what we're doing. It's a grassroots model. It's $1 at a time, and it is it's challenging, of course, but every dollar shows us that people believe in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So, Betty, back to your play. You are an Arab American.
Yes.
Your play has an almost totally black cast.
Yes.
It's set in ancient Egypt, and it has a feminist theme,
right?
Which is really an interesting mix. And it's a farce.
Yes,
it's funny.
absolutely.
It's funny.
Absolutely.
Why this particular play at this particular point in time?
Well, I have to say that this play has been important to me. I've written, modern family Arab American stories off Broadway, and I've kind of engaged with current political issues. But this play for me has always been, very important to me, and it was really only connecting with CTH that I was able to bring it to life, because we are a country and a culture of our great works are small family dramas, A Raisin in the Sun, O'Neill's work, Tennessee Williams' work. We are not a culture that likes big farcical plays about historical characters. You're not rewarded for doing that, except at places like Classical Theatre of Harlem, that really, I have to say I feel like it was very much an act of serendipity that we were able to connect, because it's kind of completely within the mission of what they're doing. And we auditioned the best actors for the role, and that's we wanted actors of color.
Tell me about your actors. In New York, it's probably I'm sure there are a gazillion people wanting to be actors.
Right.
So tell me about your actors?
They're fantastic. You want to talk a bit about April? She's been in a couple of CTH shows. And
Sure. Yeah, April Yvette Thompson, who plays Hatshepsut, the pharaoh in question. Yeah, she's been with us for a long time, and she's one of the. We tend to work with a lot of multifaceted artists, like I said before, and she's like a really all-around theater maker. She's an actress. She's been a producer. She has a Tony Award for productions that she's worked on, and so she really understands the like the model of theater making that CTH believes in. Like I think her Facebook page is where I go for most of the information about the play. Like you can see how excited she is.
Okay.
Always posting. So we're so happy to have her back in the fold and to have a role for her that really highlights her comedy.
And what was it about this play that attracted the attention of the Classical Theatre of Harlem?
Sure. Well, in addition to it being just a great play that's very, very funny, and believing in Betty, it's timely. You know, we are looking at potentially our first female president, and looking at how female leadership has been treated in the past is timely.
Now, Kelly, your background is not in the theater, or is it?
It is, yes. I grew up a theater kid from the very, very beginning, and really found my place in the administrative part of theater. And what I love about the artistic leadership of Ty Jones is really getting to be a theater maker, getting to jump in when it's necessary, being invited to the table, and really getting to participate. I love that about CTH.
And Betty, how did you get into the theater?
Well,
and you've written, what, 15 plays?
Yeah,
okay.
A lot of plays. And I often say that I have 15 more, but I just don't want people to ask about those older ones, so I just say 15. I just was somebody who always wanted to be a writer, and I decided to study playwriting, and I thought that it would be easier for me to, because I'm also an incredibly social creature, so sitting in a room 8 hours a day and coming up with a novel just seemed like at age 12 too difficult. So theater seemed that kind of wonderful blend of being able to tell a story but also see other human beings during the day.
And you studied playwriting at the Yale Drama School?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
That's where I did my graduate work.
I'm hearing about more and more
and
actors of color who are coming out of the drama school, whether it's Yale or whether it's
well, we've become a culture.
Juilliard.
Yes, we've become a culture that everything is about graduate training, and which is very challenging given the fact that some of these actors come out with student loans and they're actors and writers and directors, which is. But we've become kind of, and that's what's so wonderful about CTH is that at 22 you shouldn't really be specializing unless you're somebody like me who knew at 12 that they wanted to be a writer. You should be able to explore acting and directing and writing, and that all makes you a more consummate artist. I felt that being in a playwriting program at 22 in my graduate was a little bit restrictive because I also wanted to act and direct and think and be a thinker and theater maker, and we become specialized very young. But yes, the whole culture of theater has become something where people think it's necessary to have a master's, which is very problematic with the economics of being an artist.
And talking about the economics of being an actor, how do actors, I mean, if you're not somebody who's doing Broadway musicals, how do you make a living?
We're part of everyone's wait staff, and we're temping, and we're doing things like April. April is a social media machine, and she produces other things, on the Tony Award-winning level. So I think we all kind of just cobble together. I mean, my past few commissions, I've been working primarily in Europe for the past decade. My last off-Broadway was in 2007. Which a lot of actors and writers and directors, our director Tamala Woodard, who's a wonderful director who's been working abroad, is finding, it's easier kind of to get more opportunities elsewhere in cultures that are subsidized basically for the arts. And so we all cobble together different livings. I teach, I do various things.
Have you had some major success stories? I'm talking about actors, playwrights who've stayed loyal to you but have also gone on to bigger pastures?
Sure. I'm trying to think of a good example, and no one is coming immediately to mind. Zainab Jah, just premiered or just worked on the play from the public that went to Broadway called Eclipsed, that Lupita Nyong'o was in. And Zainab was, she has been with us for years and years and years. She played Sister Lawrence in our Romeo and Juliet. She played Titania in our Midsummer Night's Dream, and many, many roles going back and back and back. And even though she is now, a big Broadway success story, she comes all the time. She comes to our events. She is willing to participate with us and kind of stay in the family.
I'm impressed by, actors who they don't necessarily make it to the TV series or to the movie or to the big Broadway play, but who stick with it for a long time, and do what's necessary to support doing their theater work.
Yes.
I think that actors have different reasons for being actors, and some people want, fame and fortune, and some people want to be a storyteller. And I think CTH gives those actors that want to be storytellers the opportunity to do it in their own communities. We talk a lot, in our Uptown Shakespeare in the Park this past summer, the very last moments of the last performance, it rained. And so when it rains, our audiences don't leave, they just come down to the stage because there's like a lip over the top. And our actor who played Macduff talks about, turning around and seeing a little kid just leaning on the stage, like, tell me the story. And him seeing himself in that little kid and that being more fulfilling than TV money.
Does CTH have an educational component? I mean, do you have interns? Do you work with students?
We do. We have, we work with interns generally in the summer. It takes a lot of hands to put up, to welcome 12,000 guests to a park for a summer show. So we work with interns there. We also have a formal arts education program called Project Classics. And we do a summer teen Harlem Shakespeare intensive in which the students study the Shakespeare play that we're working on and get to perform their own on the main stage, which is exciting for the young people. And we also do in-school residencies and after-school programming and that sort of thing.
Okay. How do you publicize your productions? How do people find out about you?
Sure. We come on CUNY TV and speak with you.
This is really going to do it for you guys.
Sure. The advertising is so out of the financial reach of so many theater companies of our size that we don't do a ton of advertising. We do a lot of social media. We enable our actors and creative teams as we use them as kind of marketing ambassadors and arm them with materials and hashtags and handles to go spread the word. We work a lot with local business. We have a great relationship with the businesses in Harlem, and so we employ them to go and tell their audiences who are always looking for things to do. And we work with, we get, press and reviews, and it's really word of mouth that does it.
Okay. Like many art organizations, probably like most, you've had some financial struggles in the past. How are you doing now?
We're doing great. We're doing really, really great. We were hit by that perfect storm in 2009, like a lot of companies, and ran into some debt, into some problems, and we are on firm ground again and moving forward. We've grown significantly over the past few years, mainly due to, largely due to the support of our audiences, but also to the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone that does capacity building funding for arts organizations in Harlem. And they kind of give you seed money to let you kind of move forward.
Where's your headquarters? Where are you headquartered?
We are headquartered on 159th Street.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what's on your wish list for the near future and for the long term?
Oh my goodness. Well, we do need space. We do need new space to support our growing staff. We're kind of busting at the seams right now. I think really it's about having. There are a lot of companies that are much larger than us, long time ago, that were given funding that kind of built in room to fail. And we've never been given that opportunity. So if we're not successful with every production, we really run into trouble, and it would be nice to have a little breathing room.
An endowment would help.
An endowment would
help a lot.
Awesome.
And Betty, what's on your? Well, you've got this play that's going to be running. What's on your wish list, or what are your plans for the future?
I kind of really like classical work, and I'm working on something called Malvolio, which is a sequel to Twelfth Night, and it's. And I really like the idea of just taking and engaging with the classics in that way. So maybe we'll come on again and talk about that, hopefully soon.
Were you an English major in college?
I was an English major,
Okay,
yes, because there was
okay.
no creative writing major that I could take. But I wrote a play for my thesis.
Okay, let's hear it for the English majors.
One more wish list is for everybody to come see Fit for a Queen.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry we're out of time, but I want to thank Kelly Burdick, Director of Development at the Classical Theatre of Harlem, and playwright Betty Shamia, whose new play, Fit for a Queen, is being performed at 3LD Art and Technology Center at 80 Greenwich Street. You can check the theater's website, cthnyc.org, for the performance schedule, for information about the theater's educational programs, and to learn how you can support the Classical Theatre of Harlem's work. For the City University of New York and 1-to-1, I'm Sheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.